afternoon to everyone watching this. My name is Ritika and I work in the capacity of a school counselor at KRM Gurgaon. I also work as a psychotherapist on the side where I deal with issues of anxiety and depression. I hope you all are doing well and that you're safe and healthy. I know in a normal world I would be in the school right now working with the kids, probably taking life skills classes, interacting with my peers, but that's not happening right now because of COVID-19, and the outbreak has presented us with this unique and challenging situation which everyone is trying really hard to cope with. But I know there's a lot of anxiety and stress and trepidation around what's going to happen, what is happening, and that is causing a lot of people to feel overwhelmed. So I'm here. This video is a part of a series of videos that I want to make, sort of just to engage people in a conversation around how to manage some of the stress that we're feeling cooped inside our houses. I know that there's a lot of institutions and societal structures that are falling apart and hopefully evolving. There's a lot of vulnerabilities that we've come to realize as a global community. A lot of the structures that we use to discriminate against each other are falling apart, and we're learning to recognize that we're all a part of this collective consciousness as a human race, and that is leading to a lot of our ideals being reevaluated. When I think about what I want people to get or ways in which I can tell people to cope, there's a lot of things that come to mind, but trying to summarize it in one go, I would like to take for an example a conversation I was having with my mother yesterday, and progressively as we were talking about the COVID-19, I could sense that she was becoming more and more frustrated and more overwhelmed. And so I remember looking at her and thinking, but what can you control right now? What is something in your control at this present moment? And that got her to thinking about all the things that she's taking too much into consideration and things that she's being too worried about, when a lot of the things right now are out of our control, and that's causing her to feel a lot of stress. So amidst all of that is happening, if you're finding yourself feeling stressed out, feeling low on energy, low on productivity, it is perfectly okay for you to be going through all of these feelings and behaviors. You might have noticed that your diet has changed. You might have noticed that your attention span keeps fluctuating, or even that your sleeping patterns have shifted. But that's predominantly because you don't have a routine to fall back on anymore. We're improvising and adapting as a human race, and that's taking a lot of effort on our part because now we have to fill chunks of our day with productive work, and that's causing our minds to be more stimulated in a less stimulating situation. So it's perfectly fine if you're stressed out, and I want you to realize that to acknowledge these feelings and not resist them is the key. Also, this pandemic is making a lot of people really reflective, and this reflection is something that we've been meaning to do for a long time as a community. For example, germophobes are people who are scared of germs, and their worst fears are being realized all over the world right now. Or people who are claustrophobic and cannot live inside their houses are being forced to be inside their houses. People who face anxiety on a daily basis are facing more of it now because the situation and the pandemic is stirring up a lot of these emotions in people. So as a society, we're being cornered into a space where we have to realize that there are a lot of things that go on around us that we turn a blind eye to or are ignorant towards most of the times, but now we have to face them. So really quickly, if I had to recommend 3 things that we can do starting today that might help curb a little bit of the stress that we might be feeling, I would have to say the first one would be preparing and not panicking. We're seeing on news outlets and newspapers and a lot of the other social media platforms that there's a lot of fear being generated, and I know the intent is to make people aware of the severity of the situation, but if you let yourself get carried away too much in the information and the brass facts, then we lose sight of the fact that we need to survive and thrive still. So I would recommend limiting your screen time, only getting information from credible sources and limiting it to that, not letting yourself get too absorbed in how badly the virus is affecting people all over the world. Fear, panic, and anxiety can make people act out in drastic ways, in ways which are not normal for them. So when we see things like violence or racism or discrimination on the news outlets, we tend to become enraged by it. And I want you to limit your screen time simply because of that. This is a time for us to introspect and take care of ourselves, and that will be more than doing our part. And what we need to do as a community is support each other and care for each other. This is an opportunity for us to cultivate empathy, just to be able to check up on our neighbors or call our relatives or call our close friends and see if they're doing okay would be more than enough for us to have done. during these trying times. A lot of us have children and elderly people that live with us. In these times, it's very important for us to convey to them that the situation is a crisis situation and they need to change their routines and their habits a little bit to survive and live through all of this. This involves letting the children vent some of their emotions, being able to have a conversation with the children, answering their questions, addressing any concerns they have, engaging them in activities that they like, coming up with new routines with the children. Same applies to the elderly people. I know elderly people are set in their ways and they have routines, but being able to convey to them that this is a time when we need to protect ourselves and save ourselves. And it is not something that's going to last forever. This is a temporary phase that we're all going through. So conveying to people that we care about really concisely that now is the time to be protecting ourselves could go a long way. And the third, probably the most important part of being able to curb this stress is being mindful. We need to be mindful of everything that we're consuming, be it media content, be it food, be it energies. And I want you to realize that this is the time when you need to rely back on things that have worked for you in the past. It could have been yoga, something that you did years ago but made you feel really good about yourself. It could be going back to writing. It could be going back to music. It could be watching movies over the TV for a couple of hours. But basically trying to keep your mind as relaxed as possible. And this could only happen from the things that you've already tried and tested. So if listening to music for an hour every day makes you feel comfortable and relaxed, go for it. We need to be mindful in the sense that we should be able to regulate our emotions properly, because the energies that we have, we convey to the people around us. So if you simply take care of yourself today, you will also be taking care of the people that you're living with and the community at large. This is also an opportunity for us to try out new things. And I'm not saying stress can only be relieved by the things you've done in the past. If there's an activity that you've been wanting to do for the longest time, just couldn't find the time to pick up, you could go for it. You could teach your kids gardening, cooking, helping around the house. There's a lot of family dynamics that are being questioned and are being worked around, that are being modified, so to speak. Children, husbands, wives, they're all coming together, grandparents, everyone's coming together as one family unit, something that has been incomprehensible for the longest time. We had specific gender roles, but all of these are being questioned in today's times. So I want you to take this opportunity to really realize what is important for you to keep close and try to have a healthy conversation. Even if that means venting some of the feelings that you're feeling, it could be anger, it could be frustration. Venting and being able to convey it in a proper way will go a long way in curbing your stress. I am very positive that when we come out of this pandemic, as a culture, as a society, as a world, we're going to not take a lot of things for granted. Hugs, handshakes, being able to communicate with people are going to reach another level of awareness altogether. And I want you to realize that this is an opportunity for you to introspect, to understand that there are some things that are more important than others. And I don't mean it in a preachy sense. I have learned this from experience that a lot of the times when we're in the rat race to get from point A to point B, we sometimes miss out on a lot of opportunities. And this pandemic is letting us embrace all of those opportunities. It means connecting with people, understanding emotions, understanding how to regulate our own emotions. I feel like when we all come out of this, we will have a better understanding of ourselves. In the end, I would really like to stress, and this is something Arundhati Roy said in a beautiful post that she put up on Instagram that's going viral, and wherein she talks about how we're stepping into a new world once the pandemic gets over. So we can either choose to drag the baggage from the previous world that wasn't working for us, or we can step into the new world with open arms and an open mind, basically reevaluate everything that we're doing and what's not working for us, dropping these off in the previous world. And when we enter the new world, we should enter it with a clear slate. We should be able to analyze our own shortcomings. So what is something that you can change about the way you're feeling right now? What is something that you can change about yourself today? What is something that you can control today? Let's do that. Let's talk about that. Let's practice it. And I feel like in the next video, I will talk a little bit more about some of the things that I'm thinking. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it is introspect, reflect, see what is working for you and what isn't. Leave what isn't, focus on what is working, what you can control, and let's talk about that. But if you've listened so far, thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. I hope you keep doing well. I hope you stay safe, stay at home, and maybe we'll see each other soon.